Hi everyone, Salim Sufi here. Welcome to the group Q&A session for the topic we started last week. First of all, I want to ensure that my voice is clear and the screen is clear to you. Just tell me in the chat box or question box that you can see. Okay, good. Thanks, Shailesh. So this is a continuation of the topic we started last week, becoming authentic leaders. And we covered some crucial concepts and framework. And I do have some questions already received from you. Let me give you a summary of what we covered last time. So give me a second. Okay, so we started with a framework. I think you are all very familiar, the CFO leadership competency model, where we have certain competencies, which we are covering in this program. In addition to that, in this particular month, we are focused on understanding and adopting and applying the authentic leadership model, which we looked at some concepts and we realized that it starts with your self-awareness and self-clarity. And one exercise we do in different programs is the life visioning exercise. And life visioning exercise gives you self-awareness and clarity about your leadership style and your personality. And that is basically the foundational thing for establishing your leadership, which basically from the authentic leadership point of view is your character and your competency, two things. That's what we covered last time. And couple of other things we realized that both components, character and competency, are essential for a successful leadership model. If you miss one of them, then it might lead to failure. And the crucibles, challenges in life and setbacks are also very, very important. So today we are going to expand on the same topic, go a little deeper. First of all, I will address your questions, and then we'll look into some additional related concepts to that. So one of the question I received from a couple of people, so I'm just trying to compile the answers in one go. As we have understood clearly that leadership starts with self, and we also talked about private victories, which I call the personal leadership. And once you reach to a level of satisfaction with your private leadership, personal leadership and private victories, then you move on to public leadership and public victories. So the question is that where do we start in this journey? Actually, what do we do if you really want to become a personal leader, a self-leader, or want to start your authentic leadership journey? Where do you start? So we do have several tools available for that. I would recommend you a simple tool called SWOT analysis, SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. It's very common. I mean, if you Google, you will find a lot of explanation and models for that. So to start the journey, what you need to do, you need to find quality time, like 1 hour, 2 hours, and sit with yourself and start identifying your strengths, your weaknesses, and what are the opportunities in your way for your career or your profession or your business. What are the opportunities and what are the threats for what you want to achieve in your life? That's a very simple starting point to really develop your personal leadership. So that's what I would recommend. And as you go through this exercise, probably you have to do a couple of iterations to make it a little bit more valuable for you. The first time you may not be able to identify many points, but as you do this exercise, you will go deeper and deeper. And this would give you a good level of self-awareness that where you are, who you are, what are the things you really excel in, and what are the things you need to improve. The second part would be to really involve in the emotional intelligence. So as I'm sure you know, that emotional intelligence is a very critical element for the success of many leaders. And from a corporate leadership point of view, I know many recruiters, senior level, who are really looking for the qualities of emotional intelligence. So for example, CFO, one of the recruiter of the top 10 search firm told me, the partner level, he told me that one of the primary qualities they look into a CFO is the level of emotional intelligence. So this is a growing requirement for the corporate environment for the leaders to really have the emotional intelligence. Now we have this topic covered one full month. But today, from a leadership point of view, I will slightly touch into it. So those of you who have not covered it, at least have some idea that what we are talking about. Now, many people say that everything that happens in your life, you are responsible for it, which means that one way or the other, maybe it was a wrong action from you, or wrong thought, or wrong belief. So whatever happens, good or bad, it's all because of you. I probably would not go to that extreme. But I would say this, that all of your successes and failures in your life, you are responsible 90% based on your belief, your assumptions, your values, your inner game, your insight. That generates up to the extent of 90% your success and failure. Then only 10% of the things probably are external, which you may not have caused and you may not have any control of. But 90% of your success and failures are generated from inside you. That is how it is important. That's what we are going to talk about today. Another question, so that was one question. Also, after you have completed your SWOT analysis, I would suggest that you go to internet and try to find some emotional intelligence assessments. Now these assessments are ranging from 10 minutes to 2 hours. So I would advise you that you start with a brief survey, 10 minutes, and see what results comes up. That would create some awareness and some understanding of the process. And as you move forward, you can do more serious tests. But that's really a good start for you to develop your self-awareness. An interesting question came from Shailesh that last time we talked about creating a life vision. And life vision is really, if you want to make it more specific, what we said that, look, in today's times, based on the quality of life we enjoy, the life expectancy is somewhere 80 to 85. Now, we are not talking of the third world countries and the first world countries. Whether you are in Pakistan or you are in USA, the quality of life, the class we represent, the quality of life we enjoy, we are all expected to last 80, 85 easily. 2 years ago, my father passed away. He was 94. So I'm not sure if I would be 94 or not, but I'm saying, so there is a lot in the genes as well. But expert says that based on the quality of life, your life expectancy could be determined, and this is somewhere 80-85. Now, if 80-85, if you accept that, look at the corporate environment. One of the reality of the corporate environment, in which we are all in, by the way, is that there is an oversupply of talent, and the businesses have become smarter and efficient, so they could do a lot more with lot less resources. So although businesses are growing, but they are not recruiting and hiring people as much as their growth is, because they know how to do more with less, which means that all the talent, all the supply coming from the younger people is not being absorbed in the business. So for the people who are already senior enough, they are already reaching to the age level of 60 plus minus, it's very difficult for them to really continue survive so there is a retirement age. But even if certain countries there is no retirement age, that's basically a natural time that people somehow or the other have to retire or have to leave those environments. So work expectancy from a formal corporate environment point of view is somewhere like 60-65. If you also accept that, then the reality is that you will have a lifespan of 20 to 25 years after retirement. Now 20 to 25 years is a very long period of time. So what are you going to do during those times? Simply just sit and relax? Now that's a dream for many people, but in reality that does not happen. In USA, for example, the real statistics are that the busy executives who retire just for relaxation and have a comfortable life, they die in 5 years. 5 years after retirement, they die. Although they have money, they have everything, but they die. The reason is because there is a feeling of lack of importance, that they are no more worth as much as they used to be. And that really very killing, especially for men. So point of the life visioning is that at a much earlier stage, you try to identify, you try to create a vision. What would you be doing during those times? And for some people, the vision may be even earlier, or it may be around the retirement time, but it's give you clarity. So the question is that when should you really do this? When should you really try to create and identify a vision for you? I would say it could happen anytime. Even in a younger age, for example, in 20s, people don't think about their retirement or their death. Even in 30s, people don't think this is really, they need to think about it. But for some people, it happens. Some people who are very future-oriented, very much visionary, very much long-term, they started to think in their 20s about their full life. I would say that if that thinking haven't come to you yet, and you are already touching 40, this is probably the time to think about this life vision very seriously for around 40. Because at this time, the critical importance of this time point is that you need to do few things now to create that vision. If you don't create that vision and you have a dream to have a life after retirement, and you retire and try to actualize or materialize that dream, that's not going to happen. You need to work for it. So for example, I'll take you my example, my personal situation. Since long, I would say when I was in my mid-30s, I had a life vision of really coaching and training and doing those type of things in my life. And I never want to retire. That is still my dream. I want to work full capacity energy until the last day of my life. So that was my vision. And as I get older, I try to work seriously on it and try to create more details, and it becomes firmer and firmer. To realize that vision, until last few years, I was holding a very good corporate CFO position in a global manufacturing company in New York. That was a dream job for many. But I had a vision which I want to realize at latest by my retirement. And I knew that in today's environment, if I really want to do my own coaching training company, I need to do a lot of work. It's not easy. So by design, I took an early retirement myself 2 years ago, or maybe 2.5 years. So I left my job on my own, and many people said that I'm stupid leaving that job on my own without any other job, any business. But I had a very clear vision in my mind. I don't personally, I don't believe in the plan B. I really believe that if you have one focus, one commitment, one mission, and you really work hard for it, there is a very high level of chances that you will achieve it. And that's what I did. So I burned my boats, and then I seriously worked on it, and I achieved a lot of progress. So I won't say that I'm really living my dream, but I'm very close to it. So that is how you work on your dream and vision. So whatever your dream and vision is, you need to plan for it and see that what would be the right timing when you have to make some crucial decisions in your life to work or move into that direction. So to answer the question, probably plus minus 40. If that thought hasn't come itself, as I said, that sometimes based on your personality, your thinking, you would yourself start thinking about it. But if it has not come to you on its own, then, and you're touching close to plus minus 40, this is the time to think about it, number one. Number two question is that how do you pick role models? So that's a good question, because I also coach and propagate picking role models in your life, and that's very strong inspiration to become a leader, especially the type of the leader you want to become. If you could identify those people and pick them as your role models, that would give you a lot of energy and inspiration to move into that direction. How do you pick them? Well, there are a lot of good leaders around, and as I said that last time probably, that unfortunately in the public domain, the governments, we don't find many good leaders in the public domain. political leaders. But in the business domain, we have a lot of good leaders. And with the help of today's technology and information and media, it is very convenient to look at their lifestyle, to listen to them and really follow them, what they are doing. So you really don't need to connect personally. As in the past, it was a challenge that really need to find a good mentor, and not really find a good mentor. That mentor should be really able to give you some time and commit with you to really help you. And today it's not a requirement to really have a personal mentor. You could follow a lot of celebrity level leaders as your mentor or as a role model. So my advice is to find the right type of personality and leader. Listen to those good leaders. And in my case, I used to listen a lot to Steve Jobs until he was alive. I was very inspired by him since he got back to Apple. That was in 1999. I got inspired the things he started to do, and I watched him very closely, and ultimately became my role model. And I watched his 2 or 3 movies, and I read his 2 or 3 biographies. So I know quite a lot about his life. Now he's no more, but a lot of things I could still relate into my life, which helped me find out solutions that give me energy and inspiration. The other leader I got inspired, although I said a couple of times that I'm not really impressed and inspired by the political leaders, but there are some exceptions always. And Barack Obama was one of those. So I live in USA, so I closely watch Obama. And although I was not a big fan, but as you listen to someone more and watch them more and more, you started to relate something, and that's happened with me. I see a lot of good things in his approach, in his thinking, in his values, in his character, in his family values, all those things. I became really a fan of him, and he became my second role model. So he's no more a president, but still I follow him very closely. So what you need to do is start listening, mainly listen to their speeches and their statements. And as I said, there are a lot of good leaders, public information is available, and you will feel, you don't have to really, there is no formula to pick a role model. You would realize yourself that you are feeling attached, you are feeling connected to some of them. And based on that feeling and connection, you would be probably spending more time with them, and there would be a point you said, this is what I want to be. This is the type of profile, this is the type of the leader I would like to develop myself into. And that would become your role model and work very effectively for you. So that's a way you, very strong approaches to become a leader that create self-awareness, pick a role model, and try to create life vision. And finally, I think we also touched upon a very important point last time about the setbacks in life. And the history tells us that people who have gone through some major life setbacks, they become even deeper leader. And that happens with Steve Jobs, that when he was fired from his own company, then he came back, he was completely a different person. And in his own words, he said, closer to his death, that whatever he has achieved in life, that was because he was fired from his own company. And that gave him a very different level of perspective, which really energized his creativity and innovation. And whatever he did, he wouldn't have been able to do that without that thing. So that's also, I hope not, but if something bad happens in your life, setbacks, and very common thing happening today is losing job, this may be for a bigger plan for you from the God, believe me. This happened with me, this happened with a lot of other people. This is always for a bigger reason, bigger cause. You may not understand, you may not know, but you will become a better person and a better leader later on, definitely. Okay, so this is supposed to be a Q&A session, and usually we keep it for 1 hour. So I covered few questions already. As we go through, I have also a few new contents to cover with you. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, if any question comes up, please keep dropping in the Q&A box, which I'm looking at other screen, and I'll pick it up as soon as possible and try to answer all the questions before we finish this session. So let me start with this, a couple of new topics in this leadership session. And this is related to the framework of emotional intelligence. So those of you who have covered the emotional intelligence topic may already know that there are 4 levels And those who did not cover, for them it's just the introduction. 4 levels are basically self-awareness, step 1, self-management or self-discipline, 2, social awareness, and social competence or social skills, also called relationship. So let me explain to you a little bit step by step. So the first step in developing your personal leadership is to understanding yourself. And as I said, the best tools are SWOT analysis and some of the emotional intelligence self-assessment. That would give you a good start. That's easy part. That is how you would realize what you are good at and what you are not. Second part would be really self-management or self-control, which is a little bit challenging. And here you started to try to develop good habits and try to eliminate bad habits, and or try to change your habits and try to make yourself more adaptable, try to make yourself more trustworthy, but you're still working on yourself. This is all by yourself. Just think how challenging it is. I mean, if you have never went to gym and you decide that I need to go gym because you're turning 40 probably, how hard would it be in the beginning? That's self-discipline. So you need to pass that phase. This is the first hurdle for the leaders or potential leaders. That leaders is someone who leads others. If you cannot lead yourself, how could you be a leader? So that's the first test. Once you reach to a level of achievement over there, then you move to the social awareness, where you started to understand how to interact with other people. And the most important thing is empathy. If someone you meet and that person doesn't tell you, could you make a guess simply by looking at that person's face whether that person is upset or happy or satisfied or with some other emotions? Can you guess that? Well, some people are very good at that, some people are not good at that. And make a test yourself. That's your empathy. That when you connect with people without they telling you, if you are a manager and you have a person working for you and that person comes in the morning, didn't tell you anything, but you notice something is wrong and that person looks upset, didn't say you anything, but you have a feeling, you have a guts that something is wrong. And then you finally went to that person and asked him that, what's wrong? I see something. And he said that my mother or father is in the hospital, something like that, something very tragic. That's your empathy, that's your social awareness. And especially in the organization, in the business organization, when you deal with a lot of people around you, that's a very important quality. And if you don't have the quality, and some people really don't have that quality, you identify them as emotionless or have no feeling. Those are those people who do not have any empathy or emotions. And finally, once you also develop that level of skill, then your final test is creating your influence around the people you. And you do that mainly by relationship. So that's the last stage of emotional intelligence. After creating self-awareness, developing self-discipline, creating and understanding social awareness through empathy, then you finally test yourself in the relationship skills. And if you are good at that, you create a lot of influence on people around you. You take care of other people, you inspire them, you lead them, you influence them, you build them, and you very well work with the teams. So this is a brief introduction of emotional intelligence. If you have not covered this topic, so as I said that in this program we have covered this topic very thoroughly. If you have not covered, I would suggest just start reading some articles. There is a lot of articles if you search on Google, or start with a book from Daniel Goleman. That would be a good start. So we are going to cover some very important frameworks here to develop your personal leadership. So these are not the tactics. The way I try to coach you, I first share with you some of the frameworks and the concepts to give you a clear understanding what we are going to talk about. And then I share with you some tactics, what you need to do in the daily life, daily day-to-day life, that really help you to become a leader. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with the term called left brain, right brain. And probably you also know that left brain is related to your logical thinking, rational thinking, analytical part of your brain. That's called left brain. And the right brain is the part which does not go by logic, but will more go by feeling, by our intuition, by the way we look at things. And it's more random, it's not logical, right? Everybody has these two brains. Now, why this concept is very critical for us to understand. I know most of you are from finance function, and most of you are probably qualified accountant, qualified professional accountant. Now think of this. When you went through this accounting finance training for 4 to 6 years, what you were taught? You were taught objectivity. You were taught the evidence-based things. You taught the historical cost. You taught about tangible things. You were taught about to verify everything. So that is our training. This all training is left brain based. We are prepared, we are trained not to look at the random things, not to look at the things which are subjective. Objectivity is a big principle in accounting, right? Evidence is very important. Historical cost we adopt because this is objective, this is solid evidence. So we are trained to be left brain, and then you work your life on this profession. So if you spend 5, 10, 15 years, we become strongly left brained. That is what the financial and accounting professionals are. Now compared to this, if you take for example the marketing people have to work with a lot of ideas and subjectivity and emotions, and usually they are good at right brains, at the random level of thinking. Now why this really matters? Because as the business models are changing, as the environment is changing, there are more and more intangible things. I mean, even if you look at the valuation of the companies, 80% of their assets are intangibles in terms of the brand, the product values, customer values, people, which we don't recognize in accounting and financial systems, right? That is one thing. The other thing is that experts say that although we think we make rational, logical decisions, but we all make emotional decisions, especially on the buying side. So marketers know this very well, marketers. And marketers create the campaign, create the brands to emotionally appeal you. So when you buy a clothing piece, especially the personal items, you buy a tie or a shoe, you feel some emotions for it, you like it, right? When you buy a car or even an expensive item, you feel emotional. You don't say that. This is the dilemma that we said, no, I'm not emotional. Other people buy emotional things. I don't never buy emotional. I always buy logic. But when you buy a 40,000 Rolex watch, it's basically an emotional buy. You create a logic. Oh, it's a very rare thing. It's very expensive. It's handcrafted. It takes 2 years to make one watch. And this is my lifestyle. Of course, you are creating a rationale for your emotional decision. Another test I ask people to check whether they are emotional or rational is many of you might have hired other people, or you must have seen other people hiring other people. Now, has anybody ever hired a person they did not like? Hardly. They always hire the people who they like. It's emotional, right? But once they like, then they create a rationale for it, a logic for it. I like this person because he's well educated, he has manners, he is nice to talk, he has very good bargaining skills, he has good credentials, certification, degrees, those type of things, right? So that is how we work. So in leadership, or I would say in life, you are all the time using your left brain and right brain. And this is a part of creating self-awareness, that you need to understand, you need to know who you are. So you definitely have a logical, rational side, and you have a right side of the brain as your intuition or your subjective thinking. There are situations when you would be using your left brain or right brain. So take this example. You start a lighter conversation with your friend, right? And you're talking very rationally, very logically, in a very nice manner. And somehow the conversation turned into some arguments, and that arguments lead to some heated debate and heated arguments, and soon you realize that you are basically out of your logic and you are in emotions. Maybe not at the time, but later on you realize that, look, you got into your emotions. So it's very easy to slip from your logical mind to emotional mind. And emotional brain or mind does not have a logic. So you may very well make wrong decisions over there. We all the time do. Wrong buying decision, wrong reply to another person, wrong approach with your boss, anything that could be emotion. So it's very important that you understand where you are. As I said, finance accounting people are more prone to be left brain. It's not an advantage. It's just a matter of awareness. Sometimes, many times you would feel that that becomes a disadvantage as you go to the senior level, because the senior level you need to be more and more right brain, more and more emotionally stable. I wouldn't say emotional, but emotionally stable, or at least develop these skills like developing empathy, understanding other people. Let me take this concept to another level. And this is also a common thing. So I'm not a brain expert, by the way. This is a very common layman things. You might have interacted, you might not have. But this is very interesting, and this is very crucial for us to understand ourselves and develop our self-awareness. So experts say that our brain have three parts, three components. So two components are very clear. We just discussed rational or thinking brain. There's our neocortex, rational or thinking brain, right? The right brain is called limbic brain, emotional or feeling brain. Now experts say there is third part, which is called reptilian brain or instinctual, or also called dinosaur brain. Now this is the brain which deals with our natural habits, natural requirements, like sleeping, like waking up, like breathing, like appetite, like just feeling some natural demands on your body. That's all natural. That happens. Now, when a child is born with a very fully grown, developed reptilian brain. So if the baby is hungry, baby will cry. That's her instinctual brain is activating. When baby is sleepy, she would go to sleep very quickly. That's reptilian brain, right? So that is how the children, or we are born. Now, as we start to move in our life, start growing up, even as a toddler, you're not much grown up, but you are a toddler, your emotional brain started to develop very fast. And you started to recognize people around you, you make expressions like smiling or crying. Mother, for example, mother and baby develop a close relationship, emotional relationship. So as a baby, you are developing emotions very fast. So which means that besides instinctual brain, your emotional brain is developing very fast. You don't have much rational or logical brain at that time. That is started to develop when you start to go to nursery or by 3 or 4 years of age. And as you move into the elementary school and the middle high school and high school, that develops very fast. And by the time you're in college, the logical brain is fully grown up. Now, these three brains are only found in human beings, not in animals, or not at the same level of strength. These three brains for human beings are a blessing as well as a challenge. So for example, in animals, and again, depend which animal you're talking about. For example, dogs have a very high emotional brain. Dolphins have a good level of logical and rational brains. So, but no animal is comparable to a human being in terms of three brains. Otherwise, they would be the same level of intelligence if they have three brains. So, one way or the other, one or two of the brains are limited within different animals. As we grown up, as I said, that when you reach your level, when you become an adolescent or you are in the college, you have a fully grown up instinctual brain, emotional brain, and rational brain. And instinctual brain is only for the natural desires. Some are good, some are bad, but your brain is started to function in coordination with these three things. So for example, you have a desire which is not a good desire, right? Your logical brain will interfere with that desire and say, this is wrong, you shouldn't do it, right? That is how we control. Now, babies don't have that logical. So babies sometimes put their hands in fire if they are not stopped. They don't have that logical brain. As an adult, you wouldn't do that. So already your rational brain is controlling your instinctual brain. But more problem we have with our emotional brain. Emotional brain is very tricky. And the best example I quote usually is that you talk to your friend and your friend convinces you that this is the time to start taking care of your body and you should go to gym. And you said, absolutely, I fully agree with you, because you're using your logical mind. And so you say, I'm going to the gym from the next morning. Okay, the next morning comes and you are in your bed, right? And you said, yeah, this is the time to go to gym. But look, what is happening? You are not getting up, because it's your emotional brain activating. An emotional brain is saying, okay, I will do from tomorrow, or I will do it later. Or maybe my body is not that bad. I could probably wait another 2-3 months, or maybe let's start from the next year. All those arguments are coming from your emotional brain, and now there is a conflict going on. There is an argument going on between your emotional and rational brain. And also there is an instinctual brain. So if you could not finish your sleep, your instinctual brain is saying that you need to complete your sleep. Your logical brain is saying this is the time to go to gym, and your emotional brain is saying, I'm not in the mood, probably I'll do it tomorrow, right? That's a challenge. But if you really want to achieve a lot of success in your life, you look at the successful great leaders. They are those people who are able to put all these three brains in the right ideal balance. And that's what we are talking about leaders. So as a leader, as you start and grow in your journey, you have more and more ability to control and balance your three brains. Mainly two brains, actually, emotional and rational. Now, emotional brain is not all that bad. The best example I have is the many college dropout billionaires. Now, when they drop out from the college, was it a logical thing? Of course not. I mean, you get admission in Harvard with a lot of efforts. It's not wise to drop out yourself, but many people did that, right? Because at that time, their emotions were so strong. They're good emotions because they wanted to really change the world. People like Steve Jobs, people like Bill Gates, there are a lot of other people. They wanted to do something very, very big. And for them, staying in the college for 4 years was a very small thing. And they did not have the patience to really stay college. So they used their emotional intensity and left the college. As I said, it was not logical, but it was emotional drive. They wanted to do something bigger, left the college, and then what they did later on, it's all history. That is how your emotional brain works. Let's add a couple of more thoughts on this brain thing. So in our brain, if you look at the structure, it looks like what you are seeing on the screen. So our brain is composed of billions and billions of neuropaths, right? These are very small tubes or things or wires, which you can see in the structure. Now, brain is also a very special organ of the body. While our body ages with the time, brain never ages. Brain actually gets better. Use it or lose it. That applies to the brain. So what happens with our brain, that all the time, especially these billions and billions neuro pathways, they keep on changing. When we are born, they are different. As we start learning, our neuro pathways started to change. And that's basically the programming all the time taking place in our brain. So people say that if you want to develop a good habit, do it for 30-40 days, and it would be very easier for you to do it. Why? What is the reason that it becomes easier? Because when you start doing something new, which is a little hard, like start going to gym, initially your brain is not prepared for that, right? But as you do it again and again, there is a concept called neuroplasticity, that ability of our brain to change, and that remains for entire life. So when your brain observes that you are very committed and consistent, every day you are going to the gym and spending time, brain neuro pathways started to change because they are trying to adjust with your new habit. And in 30-40 days, they are fully reshaped and reformed. And once they are reformed, it becomes a second nature for you to go to gym. That's what we all the time see. So just by knowing the concept of neuroplasticity is a very powerful tool in your mind. That the thing which is, so initially there is always a challenge, change habits, right? It's a leadership or outside personal life or whatever you want to do, change is always difficult. But if you keep in mind this pathway, neuropathway, the structure of neuropathway in your brain, it will help you to adjust yourself very quickly. Finally, on the brain, there is another point of view which says that we have conscious mind and subconscious mind. Now, some experts go to the level of unconscious mind, subconscious, and conscious. But let's talk about conscious and subconscious. So conscious mind is what we are thinking now. When we are conscious, our conscious mind is working, especially when we are awake. When we go to sleep, our subconscious mind keeps working. Subconscious mind never sleeps. It keeps working. And by the way, it's much more powerful than the conscious. So experts say different estimates like 20% of our brain power is in conscious, 80% is subconscious. And based on that, let's take one example or one analogy. You see that the top artists, the people who play music or the dancers or the singers or even the Olympians, the people, professionals who play very professional level of games, they reach to a level of performance where they are performing from their subconscious mind. They are not looking at their keyboard, they are not looking at their moves, they are looking at you, they are thinking something else, and they are enjoying and they are performing at their best. Because at that level, they are working from their subconscious mind. They are not conscious. They do those things so well that even they don't realize what they are doing. It comes naturally to them. That is the peak performance. So the science, brain science says that when you are doing one thing again and again, for example, if you wanted to go to gym, the part of your habit is also transmitting into your subconscious. One common example is that when you get up in the morning, you without any thought, without a single thought, you go to bathroom, right? And you brush your teeth. You don't have to make a decision every morning that should I really go to do my teeth brush or should I not do it? You don't go through that crisis every morning, right? Because it's deeply rooted in your subconscious mind. And it happens automatically. So what leaders do, they do certain things so many times, so repetitively, and try to improve the game that it becomes a second nature. That's what we say. It becomes a second habit, second nature. Those things which becomes our second habit or second nature, they are operated from subconscious mind. And those things, as I said, that subconscious mind is much more powerful. It's like an analogy. Look at your computer and see where is the hard drive and where is the RAM, random access memory. Random access memory is your current space, memory space where you are doing your work. So when you are running a program, that programs from the hard drive, they come to the RAM, random access memory, and works here, right? That's your conscious mind. So in our brain or in our mind, there is all life history is there. That's your hard drive. Every file, every moment you have spent of life is somewhere there in your brain, right? But you don't think all the time about it. But what happens that an old friend calls and you start talking to them, and all those memory files related to that friend are retrieved deep down from the memory, right? Deep down from the hard disk, because it was all there intact. That is the power of your subconscious mind. So in subconscious, everything is staying over there, and we could retrieve and put it back over there. So the idea is that when you go to sleep, you have some dreams or nightmares. And they are all because those things are deeply, you didn't think anything about that dream. And this dream was from a time frame 10, 15 years ago in your life. And you said, I even didn't think of it. But somehow you saw that dream related to that time period. That's your subconscious mind. So according to experts, the things which goes into subconscious become much more stronger and deeply rooted. And if you use your subconscious mind, even when you're conscious, it works very strongly. So these are the concepts and framework we need to keep in our mind. Let's come to the reality now. So we've talked a lot more about science, but let's think of how do we need to apply these things. And keep this framework in your mind. So look at this flow or this slide. This slide is very simple. Your actions are your habits, or it could be specific actions. So you do something actually, and it creates some results, good or bad. That good or bad results create a belief or value or mindset for you. That belief or mindset creates additional thoughts, and additional thoughts trigger another action for you. So you go to gym, that's an action. You started to see some results in few weeks. You develop your belief, this is a good thing, I'm making improvement. Your thought comes very positive, that I'm really developing myself to a better life. You become more regular in your gym visits. Or if you do something wrong, you didn't prepare for your exam, results was bad, that change your mindset, it's very hard, it's not doable, I'm not talented enough. That thought generated more pessimism and you lost your energy. So that's a cycle. Now this cycle can move in either direction, good or bad. What you need to do, what your challenge as a leader is, that you try to push it forward towards the positive side, like going to gym. So if you are able to really do it for 30 days, it becomes a second habit for you. The people who are not leader or they don't have the potential to become a leader, they usually leave their life on a free fall and they don't care. And that is how their wrong habits or bad habits become stronger, because brain doesn't know what is good and bad. Brain is just mechanical. Brain is just following some mechanical actions. Based on your good or bad habits, they are strengthening the neural pathways in your brain. If it is a bad habit, that also becoming very stronger every day. So keep this framework in your mind, that where you want to roll this wheel, towards the positive side or towards the negative side, and you will soon see some results. Another very powerful concept or framework is, and again you can apply it day-to-day life, circle of control and circle of influence and circle of concerns. So in our life, personal life, family life, work life, you have few things on which you have full control. Your body, for example, you have full control. Your behavior, you also have full control. Now it may be you may not have that strong habits, but technically, theoretically, you have full control on your body and your behavior, right? In circle of influence, you may have your family members, your kids, your spouse. You don't have full control, but you have a lot of influence, right? They will listen to you and probably they will follow what you are saying. That's your circle of influence. Similarly, at the workplace, your job description, your responsibilities are in circle of control. Your colleague working on something which is related to your work, you may not have full control, but you may have influence on that person. You may have not every authority as your boss, but you have some influence on your boss, right? Those things fall into your circle of influence. Now, circle of concern is that these are the things which may bother you, may interest you, may relate you, but neither you have control nor you have influence. So what you do, you get worried about those things. You think about those things, and all of our frustrations, disappointments, worries come from circle of concern, because we can't do anything. We feel it with the full intensity. We feel bad. Now, my favorite in this circle is really the news, for example, the news on which the terrorism or the murders or the other dangers happening around, all those things impact us, but we don't have any control or influence on these things, right? Unless you become a strong political leader. But they bother us. They take a lot of energy from us. So I'm not suggesting to become completely senseless. Of course, there are a lot of things we need to be aware of, but pick and choose carefully what you want to keep in your circle of concern and what not, because that most of the time it's negative, because it consumes your energy and doesn't have give you much control and influence. Now, what leaders do, because your energy, especially your positive energy, is probably the most important resource for you. And you need to conserve it. You need to manage it. You need to maintain it. You need to save it from the wastage. Now, there are definitely a lot of things you have to spend it, positive things, but you also have to be very careful, avoid wasting it. Look at these two circles, if you can. And what you see on the right side, you still see there is no circle of control, because we are very clear what circle of control is. Basically, now we are going to understand the interaction of circle of influence and circle of concern. So you see these two circles, and you see on the right side, these circles are quite big: circle of influence and circle of concern. Some people get into the bad habit of really complaining all the time, worrying all the time, feeling bad about all the time for those things who are not in their circle of influence or control. What happens over a period of time, their circle of concerns keep expanding, and their circle of influence reduces or remains there where it is. These are the people who are more like reactive. They just react to everything, and they generate a lot of negative energy from their circle of influence. So energy which they could use positively in their circle of influence is all wasted in their circle of concern, right? Now, as a leader, what you should do, look at the circle on the left side. So it's the same circle, same type of circle, but you see circle of influence is much larger, and circle of influence, circle of concern is much smaller. Why? But these are the people who worry about the things which they could bring a difference. Rather than worrying about the wars going on in certain other part of the world, you think what is happening in your people close by. Maybe you could go and talk to your neighbor for something which will together benefit both families or both of you. Maybe you could talk to your boss to suggest an idea which would benefit the whole department, right? That's your circle of influence. So leaders always try to expand their circle of influence. Now realize the reality here, that we probably are not in a position to always flexibility change your circle of control. It may be very rigidly defined, but you always have the ability to stretch your circle of influence. When you stretch your circle of influence, your circle of concerns reduces. Things which you worry about, you think positively, that what can I do? And if it is really not doable, it is entirely in your circle of concern, then you try to reduce your energy consumption on it. And you try to use more of your energy in your circle of influence. So this is a general framework, which is very powerful, by the way. And if you remember that, if you internalize in your mind, it would help you at every aspect of your life, whether you are in family, whether you are with a neighbor, whether you are at a work, whether you are in a social gathering, it will help you all the time. Because changing habits by doing things differently is very difficult. But once you change your mindset, once you believe something differently, it automatically works. As I said, that 90% of the success and failures in your life is generated based on your mindset. And this one framework is a very strong mindset. If you keep in your mind, if you understand the logic, then probably it's going to work very well for you. So I'm not seeing many questions here. I hope this is flowing very well with everyone. I think people are still there. The only thing is I cannot see whether you're sleeping or you're actively watching my screen and listening to me. So give me some feeling by asking some questions or making some comments. Okay, there is one question. Let me see. Yeah, Pankaj is asking, can you please explain how to check the results of the humanitarian junk typology? Yeah, Pankaj, we are going to touch that topic of the personality types. Probably not in this session, but in the next session. So we still have one more session to go with this topic, and then I'll go in much more detail about the Myers-Briggs model. So we'll cover that time. There is another question, share some emotional intelligence assessment sites. Yeah, I could send you. I actually have links to 3 assessments. One is short, one is mid-level, like for one is 10 minutes, one is 45 minutes, and one is 2 to 3 hours. I'll send you the links. If you don't get it, please remind me through a quick email. Okay, so let me move on. I hope everybody is actively listening. So let's, from here, I will be sharing some tactics as well. So as a leader, or even as an individual person, goal setting we do all the time. And there are some innovative ideas for goal setting. So usually when it comes to the goal setting, what we do, we naturally or subconsciously try to identify a goal which is comfortable, which is achievable, especially in the corporate environment. Again, you can call it office politics or whatever. Normally there are exceptions. Normally people try to agree on a goal which they think they could easily achieve. Now, the danger is in those type of goal setting, you're not fully exploring your potential. Your potential may be much higher, but because it was easy goal, you achieve the easy goal and then you stopped making any efforts. This approach and philosophy I learned from Harvard when I was in the Harvard Business School. They said that, look, there is a stigma attached to the failure, that if you even did not achieve 5 or 10% of your goal, you are considered as if you have failed. That's wrong. According to that philosophy, in order to achieve your full potential, you need to make stretch goals to a level where you believe that you are going to fail to some extent. So stretch it, target it so high that you would say, I'm not going to achieve 100% ever, but I'll try my best. And losing or not reaching 15 to 20% of the goal is okay. Because once you try hard and you use your full potential and you reach maybe 70, 80, 90, 95, you are basically exploring your full potential, right? So that's one thing. Try to set goals stretch enough for you and for your staff, if you have the authority, to really utilize your full potential. Now, in your work environment, always try to set goals for yourself and your people which are aligned to the vision and strategy of the organization. Because if it is related to the, if you set your goals well aligned with your boss, if you achieve something, that's the achievement for the boss, right? And that is how it is cascaded up to the top level, that you basically work to really create success for your seniors. As a matter of fact, I would advocate you that as your primary responsibility in your work, you should take it as that the purpose of your existence at your work is to make your boss successful. Now, I know this is hard to digest for many people, but honestly, believe me, this is the success formula. If you are able to, I'm not talking about flattering, by the way. I'm very honestly, sincerely, seriously talking about taking the mission that your job is to make your boss successful. Do everything which will help him or her be more successful. And you will see that you not only you have excellent relationship, but you are being rewarded. You are being credited for all the efforts. Because if your boss is successful, you are successful. And if you are successful, your boss is successful. So I know this is hard to digest, but this works very well. And cascade goals to the support next level. Same thing, I'm just telling you that whatever you do should really result in support and creating more achievement for the senior level. If you are a manager and you manage few people, 5, 10, 15, whatever, then try to develop a habit of having weekly staff meeting. And weekly staff meeting, you may not have an agenda, but if you develop that habit that every week you are meeting those people, you would be surprised in a few meetings how much knowledge and intelligence you would develop for the organization. Because when people are sitting informally with each other, they talk a lot and they provide a lot of informal information. That would make you a better manager. Not only it would connect you with your staff members in relationship, but it would also, because they would have a forum to really make them sound, but you also get a lot of information from them. And that is the place where you could also monitor the progress of their goals, the weekly meeting, informally. And so weekly is very informal, just touching base, and make it a more formal process quarterly. And if quarterly progress is not happening for the yearly goals, this is the time to revise and realign those goals. Now, a few suggestions on the hiring, firing, and retention if you are involved into that activity, because this is also a very important part of responsibility for managers and leaders. So general advice is hire slow, fire fast. Because if you hired someone and that person is not working, then there are less chances that the person would ever change. Now you can develop a person who has already been there as an employee, and because of the work nature or because of the changes in the business structure, you can develop that person into a different role. But if you made a wrong hiring decision, you cannot change that person, most probably. So you should take more time in hiring the right person, more time. But if you realize that you made a wrong decision, then act very fast. Don't try to justify your decision by keeping the wrong person. And hiring is such a process. No matter what you do, in my opinion, you always are running with a chance of 50% mistake that you are hiring the wrong person. No matter what you do, no matter how many psychological tests you do or the aptitude test you do, there is always a chance. Cultural fit is most important. Google, as a very successful organization, in their hiring criteria, the first principle is the cultural fit, which means that if they are hiring a new employee and that new employee is fulfilling all the requirement of an experience and qualification and all other things, but if they see there is no cultural fit, they would not hire that person, because for them the critical success factor is culture and alignment with employees. If one wrong person comes into that culture, they may destroy or create a bad impact on a lot of other employees. Another option to avoid hiring mistake is really to temp to perm, like start an assignment as a temporary basis and then based on the 2-3 month performance then make them permanent. But this is not possible for many employees because of the permanency. I mean, nobody would leave their permanent position to come for a temp job. So not applicable in every situation. And ideally speaking, it's a fast changing environment, and ideally the fast movers don't stay a job more than 3 years. So if you are holding the same job, same responsibility, same functions for more than 3 years, this is the time for you to be concerned about it, because you are getting staled. Now experts say that 3 years is an ideal period because you come with a fresh energy to a role and you develop a lot of new ideas. You understand the business, you try to apply and implement a lot of new things. Second year is the one where you are reaping the best results and fruits, because now you are well established and well aligned with your job. And third year you could continue that reaping the fruits, but also third year is the time when you start looking for new challenges and new ideas, because your energy is going down during that time. And always try to assess your market value, not only for you but also for your employees, the people who work for you. And the best way to market value is that whether you are looking for a job or not, at least once in a year, try to put yourself into the market and see whether you're getting any job offers. And if you're getting any job offers, what benefits and salaries you are fetching, you're getting. That's your market value. I see many examples, I'm sure you know many people who are there in the corporate environment for one role they are doing for 15-20 years, and they have taken it as an entitlement, that this is their entitlement, and based on the 15-20 years, based on their seniority, their salary has gone to a very high level, and they are doing a very low level work, and they have an attitude that as if this is their entitlement. That's very dangerous, because as I said, times are changing. And what organizations are doing, they somehow find a reason for that person to let go. And once that person is gone, 10 other people line up for that role, and probably 5 of them are better than the incumbent at a lower salary. That's a reality. So I'm not trying to scare you, but this is a reality happening. So if you are one of them, they're doing same job for a long time, just get up. And even if you're not getting new role in your current organization, go in the market and just check your marketability, because that would either give you 2 type of signals. Either it would scare you, so you need to develop yourself, or it would satisfy you that, look, okay, I'm still in this organization for a long time, I'm doing all job, but I'm competitive. I can, if for some reason I have to leave this job, I can always go in the marketplace and attract another opportunity for me. Another approach or idea is that some people think that it is the loyalty things which really keep their job security. So they should be loyal to your boss, they should be loyal to your owners and employers, or the CEO of the company? Well, it's not about the loyalty to your boss or your employer. It's about the loyalty to your profession. Because all jobs are temporary, profession is permanent. If you're already in the finance, probably you will retire from the finance. If you're already a controller, probably you would remain controller or CFO. That's permanent. But the company you are working may be temporary. Maybe you will work for 1 year, 1 month, or maybe 20 years, who knows, but it's temporary. So mindset is always loyalty to the profession. And why this is important? Because profession is more permanent. Profession is part of your network. You keep attached with your institute where you qualified, or your peers, or the other professionals, and that is where you learn a lot what is changing in the profession, what is happening. Because if you're working for a smaller company, you may not have all the opportunity to develop yourself. It's a very small place. Large company, you could learn a lot, but no matter whether you're working for a large company or a small company, if you keep interacting with your profession, you would always learn new things, and that would really help you to keep your career going on successfully in the long term. And also, again, it's part of the networking topic and relationship. We cover much more detail, but as a general guideline in the hiring, firing, retention, always try to keep some good relations with some high-profile recruiters, whether you're looking for a job or not. If you have authority, give them some assignment. Use them to bring some other staff members. If you can use that, that would bring them very close to you, and that would establish the relationship. Okay, so let me check the question box now, because there are more topics, but I'm not sure if I want to start that. Let me see how many questions are there. Okay, Prabhakar, interesting question. How to convert reactive forces into proactive focus within the same role? Sorry, this is from Imran. I think, Imran, it's about your personal approach. As I explain the framework or the concept, that if you think that you have the leverage and flexibility to expand your circle of influence, you're already in proactive mode. But if you react negatively, complaining only, telling people that how bad the situation is, how bad your boss is. Now, complaining is very dangerous actually. When you complain for anything, you develop a victim feeling for yourself. You declare yourself as a victim to the world, that look, I'm victim. I have been unfairly treated. That's why you're complaining. So that's one thing. Doesn't look good for your brand. But more importantly, dangerously, what happens, psychologically, you don't make any efforts. Because you said, I'm a victim. I don't have to solve it. The world has to fix it for me. That's a victim feeling. But if you feel that, no, you have some powers, even if you cannot take much actions, but you could influence other people, you feel powerful. And you try to create a solution. Remember, world has no obligation to fix your problems. Many times we feel entitled that, look, world has really treated me bad, so they have to fix it now. No, they are not supposed to. They are not obligated to fix your problem. You have to do it. Even if you are unfairly treated by someone, it is your problem and you have to solve it. That's the mindset. Very important. So I think this is very easy, Imran, to develop a proactive focus. Prabhakar is asking, by giving constant affirmations, we can give the subconscious mind the commands and achieve our goals. Good question, Prabhakar. And this is what experts used to believe. In the recent past, I would say 10, 15 years ago, they thought there was this is called a technique of affirmations that say again and again, repeat that I'm getting better, I'm getting better, I'm intelligent, I'm getting wealthy, I'm rich, and these would start to change your subconscious. This was a belief 10, 15 years ago. Today, experts do not support that because research did not prove it. Actually, what happens that even when you are affirming loudly, there is an inner voice. So you say, I'm getting better, I'm getting rich, and your inner voice says, you are kidding, you are not. So constantly there is a counter argument inside you, and you cannot really change that. It sometimes, many times, create a even bad or worse situation for you. So rather than creating affirmations, expert now says that work on your mindset and try to change, replace the old thought with the new thought. And you cannot fool around with your brain. So you need to find good reasoning for it. And the framework for I have been sharing with you, these are based on certain philosophies. So if you say, yeah, I believe, this is my belief that I have the power to really expand my circle of influence, that becomes a thought which is replacing a bad thought or a weak thought. Okay, this question is from Sohail. Okay, I'm sorry, Sohail. Another question from Shailesh. At C-level position, one should follow the principles of roles for maximum 3 years. Does it not impact one's professional image in terms of being viewed as a job hopper and questions one's loyalty? Okay, interesting, Shailesh. So I spent 17 years in Philips Electronics, one company. It's a large company, different divisions, different regions, large organization. In 17 years, I think I changed 6 roles, 6 or 7 roles. Out of 6 or 7 roles, I think 4 or 5 roles were based on that organization identified me as a high potential. And before I could complete 3 years, they told me that we think that you should take over that role. You are suitable. And that is how I moved to the new position. So for high flyers, it is not that they have to really change themselves every time. That, okay, this is the time come, now I have to find a new role. If you're really doing well, other people will identify you to take more senior roles. That is how you make progress. And that is how you move jobs. Now you could, as I said, that you could also look around and see potential opportunities around 3 years time frame, and you can find an internal and external opportunity. But in my observation and experience, it is the other people who notice you, and they think that you are too long there. They cannot wait for you to take additional responsibility, and that is how you move over. How to answer the cultural questions of a company? Not sure, Faisal, what do you mean by that? Expand your question. Okay, another question. It's a little technical. How does one handle OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder related habits? I think they need to see a psychiatrist or psychologist. I'm not sure if I could handle that answer. If you describe the situation, probably I could give you an answer. But generally, I mean, I don't think I'm qualified enough to really give you answer for that question. Okay, so I don't see any more questions, and I think we have also completed time duration for this session. So usually we try to keep this session between 1 hour and until we finish the question. So it's already 1 1/4. So as I said, that I have some other interesting topics I would like to really start next time. Let me see one final question here. If someone promoted in 8 years employment with 3 promotions, can we call it satisfactory progression? Of course, absolutely, absolutely. 3 promotions, it's less than 3 years. So again, it's not a criteria, but promotions are good. Promotions are proof that you are doing more than what you are expected. So I think that's really a no-brainer. Okay, folks. So I hope I throw some good concepts and ideas and frameworks on you. I will send you the replay and the copy of the presentation, and it is very important that you review those concepts and frameworks and send me your question, send your questions to Sabah or to me, or ask during the session, because the purpose of these calls and session is to make it as practical as possible. And I think all the things we are talking about, they are very practical. We do discuss some frameworks and concepts, but they are also from a point of view of applying in your day-to-day life. So hope that would benefit you. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye now.